My entitled roommates decide to throw out all of my food after I refuse to cook dinner for them. So I decided to get some revenge by delivering karma to them in a way that I don't think they ever expected. Here's what happened. So it seems to me at least that I've dealt with a lot of terrible people in my life, and I suppose I'm just kind of a magnet for it. From my terrible mother, to my terrible ex-wife and mother-in-law, to bad coworkers that gave out my phone number to my mother, and lastly, some bad roommates from my college days. But beyond all that, I haven't really dealt with anyone else of note. I've got good friends, a good job, and I'm physically active. But there were times where I was drawing in terrible people. So back in college, I had to deal with 3 bad roommate guys for 6 months. It was community college, so there was no dorm or anything like that. It was just a rundown apartment that looked right out of the 80s. I was balancing school and part-time work, so I didn't have a lot of money. The funny thing is, I was literally the only one there who knew anything about cooking, much less even did the dishes. I wasn't one of those hardcore couponers, and there was really only 2 good stores in walking or biking distance. One was a typical supermarket, and the other a small discount food store. And that's where I went the most, while also not being a stranger to the local thrift store. My roommates mostly ate junk food, or whatever else they could grab that was already made. So for obvious reasons, I couldn't keep leftovers. We also had fights about them not doing their share of cleaning, but that was resolved later as well. 2 of these guys said that they were friends before college, and the 3rd roommate fit right in with them for a while. The drama over the food first started when I made myself an egg sandwich for breakfast. 2 eggs over easy or medium with your choice of cheese, bread, and mayo. It's actually pretty good, and it's a solid breakfast. One of my roommates saw me eating it and asked for one too. Now, I apologetically said no, because I was on a tight food budget and the frying pan was already in the sink. And when I said this, he just rolled his eyes at me and groaned out loud. I told him they were easy to make them himself if he bought the ingredients, but he just balked at the notion. Another day, I made mashed soft-boiled eggs for breakfast, and that attracted more attention. It's eggs boiled just enough to where the whites are cooked, but the yolk is still liquid. You then peel the shell off and mash the eggs in a bowl with a fork. It can be easy to mess up, and I only really succeeded half the time, but it's great with just basic seasoning and sometimes hot sauce. I haven't made it in a while, but I like to eat it on toast and sometimes over rice. I also made egg salad from time to time. Eggs were cheap and basically $1 a carton at the discount store, and I'm also not a big fan of cereal, as I had to eat it a lot growing up, and I prefer a warm breakfast without a lot of sugar. No matter how much I told my roommates they could cook their own food if they let me show them how, they just kept complaining that I made food that they weren't allowed to eat. Even though they wanted to eat good food at home, they were completely unwilling to put in any effort, and compared to those guys, I was the only broke person there. They all had the latest gaming consoles and new laptops. One of them even had a car. All I had was an old N64 and CRTV that were legitimately pity gifts from friends years prior. And back in the day, I had a GameCube that I splurged on, and a used laptop that I got secondhand. My roommates were nearly constantly gaming, watching YouTube, and being just general couch potatoes when not in class. I think they thought that I would be a pushover at first, but I'm the kind of guy that seems chill till you push me one step too far. And they did exactly this by stealing my game systems and my food. Now, here's what happened. One evening, I made something good for my dinner. I don't remember specifically what it was, but it might have been a fillet of some kind. I mean, I eat those a lot. And I even made them into spicy fish burgers. My roommates all ganged up on me over how their dinners always sucked unless they ate out. They had microwave food all around them on many nights, and they wanted me to finally make something nice for everybody. So I told my roommates that if they each kicked in $5, I'd make us a nice spaghetti dinner the next day. And surprisingly, they agreed. But my biggest mistake was not collecting the money from them in advance. So I went out and got some ground beef, a jar of sauce, a loaf of garlic bread, the noodles, and some canned green beans for the side. And I whipped up a great dinner. But when I wanted the money from each of them, they just laughed at me and refused. In fact, they played off what they did as a joke. When I didn't accept that answer, they told me that they were sick of me flaunting my cooking around them and never sharing anything with them. Well, I gave them all the finger, and I told them that I would never cook for them ever again. And you know what? I stuck to that. They tried several more times, and I always refused. They even offered to pay me again, but still refused to pay me for the first time. So I'm sure they would have just pulled the same stunt again. Money or no money, I had my pride, and I meant it when I said I would never cook for them again. They then started acting like kids whose parents wouldn't feed them around me, and they were pretty angry when I called them out on it. I wasn't obligated to be their caretaker. I didn't know what kind of homes these guys came from, but they certainly weren't used to not getting their way. Well, one day I came home from work, and I found all my food missing from the fridge and cupboards, and none of my roommates were home. So I was furious, and I couldn't even confront them. So I just tried to play some video games to unwind, but all of my consoles were missing. And at that point, I lost my mind. I went to see my acquainted neighbor living in one apartment down the hall, and I asked for some advice from him because he was the one who sold me the GameCube. He had an evil idea and said that he would use a digital camera to record my roommates when I confronted them if I wanted, but only if I paid him $20 to do so. And at this point, I didn't really have a choice but to agree. When my roommates finally came back, they were all smug. That is, until they realized their gaming consoles and laptops were all missing. That's when they flipped out and threatened to beat me up. But I held my ground and I told them I wanted my stuff back, or I would never tell them where their stuff was. It turns out they bagged up all of my food and threw it in the dumpster outside a few hours earlier. Then they hid my game system and TV somewhere in the building before taking off for a party. I asked them why they did that, and they claimed it was because they had been drinking all day since it was a weekend. Then they tried to say it was just a stupid drunken joke, while also telling me I'd gone too far. But I just laughed and said they were enormous hypocrites and jerks to say that I went too far after what they did to me, and I was just getting even. Now, one of them looked like he was ready to hit me, and that's when I drew all their attention to the nearby window, and it's there that they saw our neighbor outside the window recording everything with his camera. He gave me an okay and took off down the fire escape before my roommates could do anything. I told them that guy just recorded their entire admission, namely for bullying, theft, and drinking under the age, as we were all under the age of 21 at the time. And it's then that I told them that I would take this recording to the dean if they didn't make things right, because they wouldn't like having that stuff as part of their records. It was well known a couple of girls had been ousted from the college for roommate bullying the previous year, and drinking while underage is a huge no-no. Well, when I said that, they all looked like the color had been drained from their faces. I told them that I wanted my stuff back now and the cost of my food reimbursed, basically saying that the next move was theirs. Well, they all took off outside as fast as they could. They came back with my game systems and games in a garbage bag, and even retrieved my food from the dumpster and expected me to just take it. But I refused to touch the food because it had been in the garbage for hours, and I would only accept cash from them. Additionally, they dropped my TV and it was broken, so I wanted that replaced too. They all moaned and groaned, but finally asked me what I wanted. So I said I wanted a new TV and $60 cash from each of them. They asked why that specific number, and I said $50 each to replace my food that they threw away, $5 each for the spaghetti dinner they never wanted to pay for, and then what remained for having to pay a guy to wait for 2 hours outside our window in the cold to record them. So they all got their wallets out and begrudgingly gave me the money. They had all previously bragged about how they had parents and scholarships footing their bills, so they easily had the cash on them. After getting paid, I told them where to find their stuff that I'd hidden, and they stopped bothering me. One of them had a small flat screen TV in his stuff and just gave it to me to replace the one that they broke. And then after that, we called it even. But after that event, they avoided speaking to me if at all possible, though eventually they all started getting on each other's nerves since I ruined their fun. They also never brought alcohol into the apartment again for fear that I would snitch on them, and they did try to bother the guy I paid to record them, but he said he would take the recording to the dean himself if they ever came after him again, so they were completely out of luck to do anything about the situation. When the lease renewal came, 2 of the roommates opted to move out of the building because they and the third guy now hated each other. Yeah, they all hated me, but the 2 that left were especially the worst, but they liked each other just fine. I didn't bother keeping tabs on them once they were out, and the few classes we had together, they just kept away from me, and the one roommate that stayed actually made some improvement as a person, and made sure to tell the new guys who moved in not to mess with me at all. One of them was pretty cool though, and he actually liked cooking simple home meals like I did, and he also liked Nintendo and bikes. He eventually became my best friend, and still is to this day. We even still play Mario Kart together when we can, and took up cycling together again once I separated from my ex-wife. He's been my greatest support ever, more so than any family I've ever had. Also, for those wondering where I'd hidden my roommate's stuff, I hid them all in their own suitcases that were already put away in the closet, which really would have been the last places they would have looked. And trust me, they were so pissed that it was all right there the entire time. Yeah, those roommates suck. If I had to deal with roommates like that who were selfish and just so condescending, and who would be so willing to throw my stuff out all because they didn't get their way, then I would seriously lose my mind on these people. Especially when you're tight on a budget. The fact that they would throw your stuff out and your property out is so incredibly rude and criminal in my opinion. So good for you for getting some solid revenge, because these people absolutely deserve it. If you like Am I the Jerk, you're probably going to love Am I the Genius. Check it out, link down below in the description. Also, go to amithejerk.com/submit if you would like to submit your own stories. Am I the jerk for refusing to cook a vegetarian Thanksgiving dinner, all because my brother is demanding that we do so? Because right now, I am very frustrated with how things have gotten out of hand, and at this point, I seriously don't know what to do. Here's what happened. Okay, so I feel like I've slipped into the twilight zone with this entire argument, so I'm looking to the internet for some kind of answer. For a bit of background, I'm a 31-year-old female, and my brother and I do not get along. For the sake of the story, we'll call my brother Mark. When he was a teenager, he saw a documentary on factory farming and decided to becoming a vegetarian. He got very, very annoying about it quickly, but my dad shut him down when he tried getting the rest of us to be vegetarian with him. Then he went to college, made a bunch of very strange friends, and then went militantly vegan. It's his entire personality. I stopped talking to him after he threw a fit about one of my birthday dinners being at a steakhouse and spammed me with messages of cows being taken to the slaughter. Now, my parents have been trying to repair the situation, and for a while, it did seem like Mark was getting better, so I've been letting him back into contact gradually. Then he started dating someone by the name of Pam, who is some kind of vegan influencer. She is apparently moderately popular online, but I have no idea what she does exactly. I don't know if Mark was trying to impress her or what, but last Thanksgiving, he insisted that mom cook at least a vegetarian meal, or they wouldn't come on ethical grounds. My mom just wanted everybody to get along on her favorite holiday, so she agreed. And trust me, it was not a fun meal. This year, my parents have downsized for retirement, and my mom is having health problems. I bought their house when they moved, so my mom asked me to host Thanksgiving so it would be like usual. So I told everyone in the group chat so Mark and Pam could make travel arrangements, and Pam immediately started gushing about all of the vegan replacement recipes that she could give me to replace the traditional ones. I said to send me a main dish recipe that they like, and I would give it a shot, but I am making the traditional meal otherwise, and there should be plenty of things that they can eat. Well, Mark and Pam have been arguing about this with me for days, and then Mark said that if I wouldn't make a meat-friendly meal, then they wouldn't come. This then upset my mom, who asked me to just make what she made last year to keep the peace, but I told her that Mark needs to get over himself and I'm not coddling him. I'm having turkey on Thanksgiving. Now, my dad privately agrees with me, but Mark saying that he's not going to come is upsetting mom so much that he's worried it will impact her health. There's a not big, but also not zero chance that these might be some of the last family holidays we have with her. And my mom thinks that I'm putting turkey over my own family, and I'm honestly not so sure anymore. So am I the jerk in this situation? What should I do? No, you are absolutely not the jerk in this situation. It seems like Mark is trying to hold the whole family hostage all because of his stupid dietary choices. If he really doesn't want to eat meat, then congratulations, bring something of your own, or at least have one main dish that's just for you and your stupid girlfriend. But just because he doesn't want to eat meat doesn't mean that the whole family has to not eat meat as well. Like, that is so stupid and annoying, it's not even funny. And this is not you putting turkey over your entire family. In reality, this is Mark putting turkey over the family. You've given him options. Like, seriously, if he really wanted like a vegan dish, or even like multiple vegan dishes they could enjoy at Thanksgiving, then they could easily have that. But it seems like that's not what he wants. He wants everybody to follow his dietary restrictions. And that is just super annoying, and I would be so pissed off at that. So no, you're definitely not the jerk here, and I think that Mark is being completely unreasonable. My partner's been caught red-handed, embezzling money from the company we work for just so he can pay off his gambling debt. And now my trust in him is completely broken, and at this point, I seriously don't know what to do. Here's what happened. Okay, I'm feeling completely lost and overwhelmed by what happened in my life just hours ago. I'm a 27-year-old female, and I'm working as an operations supervisor at a BPO company. I've been with this company through thick and thin, and the owners trust me deeply, and I'm the longest serving employee. I met my 28-year-old partner at the company, and we now have an 11-month-old daughter. He's generally a good guy, and although we're not married, we do live together, and we've been together for about 2 years. When we met, he was a regular agent, but because of the trust the company has in me, they gave him the chance to handle our payroll. Our payroll process is still quite manual, so our salaries are paid in cash and counted by my partner manually before releasing. Well, earlier today, the owners called me in for a discussion. They showed me hidden salaries that had been included on the list since May of this year, and it turns out that my partner is suspected of embezzling around $4,400 US, which is a very huge amount in our country. Now, when I heard this, I was stunned, and I didn't know how to react. The owners expressed that they trust me enough to know I had nothing to do with it, which I deeply appreciate. I express my shock and confusion as I handle our family finances, and I never suspected anything, and I was just as lost as they were. I assured the owners that I would fully support their investigation and do my part as an employee. They allowed me to discuss the situation with my partner, even though the investigation is still ongoing. When I got home after crying the entire way home, I talked with him about it, and surprisingly, I was calm. I told him about the investigation and I laid out the facts, and to my shock, he admitted to it. And that's when I started crying and I asked him why. We had enough money and we lived comfortably. I couldn't think of any reason why he would do that. He then confessed that he had been addicted to gambling for months and had taken out numerous loans from online lending apps. It accumulated to the point where he couldn't pay for it anymore, and when he couldn't handle getting bothered from the lending apps, he resorted to embezzling money from the company. Well, I felt betrayed, tricked, sad, and angry all at once. I couldn't believe I'd been so blind. We were together almost 24/7 and I had no idea. He said he was insecure because I made 3 times his salary, but I got angry and I told him that I worked so hard to get where I'm at and that his ego had consumed him. So I told him that I was done. I love him, but I can't stay with someone who betrayed me and so many others. I told him that he should have thought about the consequences before he started gambling. I said he might have taken me and our daughter for granted, thinking I would forgive him, but I won't. I refuse to let my daughter and me be dragged down by his mess. I told him he could stay at the house for now, but he needed to find another place to live because I don't want to see him. One more thing I asked for him is to not let this be hard for us. Just set us all free and we can be on our separate ways. Now, this may be dumb, but I still love him enough that I care about where he'll stay. So I let him stay at our room for now. I'm writing this in another room and currently contemplating my decision. Honestly, every time I look at my daughter, I cry and think if this really is what I want for us. Her growing up without a complete family, but I just can't take the betrayal. I honestly feel so broken and I don't know what to do next. Yeah, your partner is an awful person and what they did is so unacceptable. For starters, while I do think it's noble of you to be like, yeah, you can stay with me until you figure something out, I think it would be important to be like, yeah, there's a timeline though, you can't stay here forever. And I personally get where you're coming from, where it's like, okay, my daughter needs a complete home, but this guy has completely betrayed that trust. He basically put your livelihood in jeopardy and the financial future of your daughter in jeopardy by literally almost costing you your job. Like, I've got to be honest, I think you got incredibly lucky by that company being like, yeah, we'll keep you around, and not being like, not only is your partner getting fired, but you are as well. Like, this easily could have been spun against you just as much as it's obviously against him. So honestly, with whatever happens between you and your partner, hopefully this all works out for your daughter, because in my opinion, she's the one that deserves the best future regardless of what happens. Am I the jerk for supposedly purposefully excluding my coworker from eating dinner with the rest of the office to celebrate another coworker getting married? Because right now she is literally blaming me for everything that went wrong, and at this point, I seriously don't know what to do. Here's what happened. I'm a 28-year-old male and I work in a team of 7 people. A new girl that we will call Jess joined a couple of months ago who I really just don't care for. I am polite to her while we work, but we don't share any hobbies or overlap in any way, and I think she's a bit pretentious, to be honest. She's always talking about her living in London in her early 20s. It is her whole personality, talking about all the expensive things she used to do and how she is so broke as a result. Now, we are all paid very well for what we do and the area we live in. Well, last night, we had all planned to go for dinner after work to celebrate someone by the name of Chris getting married. I knew Jess would be going, but it wasn't my plan to dictate who went, and it's a nice thing to celebrate, so I decided to go anyways. Everyone at work drives apart from me, so Chris offered to drive us both. I will say I am the closest with him, and we started around the same time. Well, I was all set to go until Jess said she finds driving on her own nerve-wracking, and I honestly have no idea how she even manages to commute every single day. She then asked if I would ride with her. Well, I declined and said I wanted to travel with Chris. She insisted, so I told her I want to ride with Chris so we can talk about wedding things, and then I just got into the car. Now, Chris did offer to also drive her, but she declined. We all got to the restaurant, but Jess did not. She had a panic attack mid-journey and decided to Uber home, leaving her car on a random street somewhere. Well, fast forward to today at work, and she had a go at me and accused me of purposefully excluding her from the group plan. Apparently, me not riding with her was a scheme on my end to make her not go, because apparently I don't like her. I told her that she excluded herself. Chris offered her a lift and she didn't take it. She also didn't have to abandon her car, and she could have called an Uber for herself to the restaurant. And then after I said that, I just walked off. Now, here's the thing. While I don't like her, I never make that known at work or to any of my coworkers. I ask about about her weekend, I offer her a hot drink if I make one, and I help her whenever she has questions. I just don't talk to her like I do with everyone else, and I don't have her on my social media. I've known everyone else for about 3 years now, so of course I'm close to them. I was talking to Chris about this post-shift, and he told me that it wouldn't have hurt for me to ride with her instead of riding with him when she insisted. So it now has me questioning, am I the jerk for the way I handled my coworker? Because right now I'm really not sure what to do. No, you're not the jerk at all. You don't know this lady nearly as well as the rest of your coworkers, so her demanding that you ride with her is already like a big red flag for me personally. But also, why is she acting as if you're the reason she couldn't make it to the restaurant? Like, that literally falls on her shoulders and not yours. Like, I'm totally sorry that she had a panic attack, but that is not your fault. Just because you didn't give in to someone's weird demands, especially when you don't know them that well, doesn't mean that you're a bad person or somehow excluded them. She literally could have gotten in the car with Chris and gone with you guys to the restaurant, or she could have taken an Uber there instead of trying to drive there herself. Like, it really seems like she just wanted to be pissed off at you for some unknown reason, and that is not fair in the slightest. So no, you are not the jerk here, and in my opinion, I think Jess is being completely unreasonable. When you subscribe, make sure to hit the bell to turn on notifications. To finish listening to all the stories, check out the playlist at the top of the description. And if you want some chill music to put on in the background, check out easymode.com. If you like Am I the Jerk, subscribe to Am I the Genius. Everything will be linked down below in the description.